Well, hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with David Orandella of ORIX. David, thank you for joining us.
Yep, thank you, Hall.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and what you've been doing in the fundraising space over the past few years?
Yes, certainly. I am managing director for ORIX Growth Capital. We are part of the larger ORIX, which is probably one of the largest financial services and investment companies that not a lot of people have heard of. It's a pleasure to at least get a chance to tell more about our story and what we're doing. But ORIX is a large multinational company, actually headquartered out of Tokyo, with about 100 billion of assets, publicly listed on the Nikkei and New York stock exchanges, has been around over 50 years, and the U.S. operation is headquartered here in Dallas. So we have a lot of activity going on. We manage a smaller subset of those assets from a direct investment standpoint, about in excess of $6 billion. But we have offices, as I mentioned, headquartered in Dallas, offices located in New York, San Francisco, D.C., as well as Seattle.
Okay. And what does ORIX Growth Capital normally invest in? What kind of deals are you looking for?
So we're really focused on those high growth companies that are, I guess some would say late stage venture, some would say growth equity oriented, but I'll say in that zone where they're typically later stage companies growing rapidly, they're still looking for that fuel from a capital standpoint to get them to the next level or two. And we provide that capital anywhere from investment size, 5 million on the very low end of what we do, and can fund up to 50 million from a investment standpoint. So it provides a nice range that we can provide, to really grow with companies over time.
And what kind of revenue does the company need to have to get into your interest range?
So given that we're focused on later stage companies, typically what we're seeing opportunities is where companies are getting to that 15 million in revenue or more. So if I were to bracket it a bit, it would be sort of 15 million on the low end to maybe 150 million on the upper end, perhaps more, but that's a pretty good range that we work within.
And you work in the technology area. What sectors do you see are most interesting these days? Which are the ones that are coming up that you find most interesting?
So we have certainly a lot of history. By the way, we've been around for 15 years doing what we do at ORIX. And so we have a long history of investing in all sorts of companies in the tech space. One of the key areas I'll just highlight for us is in the healthcare technology space. So I actually lead that area for for ORIX Growth Capital, and we also then invest in secondarily. I look at opportunities that are in tech, and we have other folks on our team that are focused on purely tech opportunities. So SaaS would be a good example in terms of the types of businesses from a software standpoint. We like that recurring software revenue. In addition to that, sort of big data, security, those are certainly hot areas these days.
And then you also look at the healthcare space. What's your investment thesis in healthcare these days? What do you see as the future view there?
So that's a great question. The key theme for us, overarching, is that we're looking for opportunities in technology to make the healthcare system more efficient. So whether that is from a care delivery standpoint or from a revenue cycle management or EHR sort of healthcare delivery perspective. So we're looking at those companies and opportunities where we can take the I guess lack of efficiency and have technology applied to drive more efficiency in the system. And the results of that are better patient care, lower cost in the overall infrastructure or healthcare system. So we get excited about those kinds of opportunities.
And what do you think about the current regulatory environment? Where do you think that's going to go?
It's certainly causing quite a challenge for a number of companies because the lack of ability to at least give some clarity around direction at this point is causing both pause from an investment standpoint, but also giving companies sort of challenges or difficulty in terms of how they need to move forward from a strategy standpoint. We really need to, at least from a regulatory environment and legislative standpoint, get to clarity and efficiency for businesses.
Well, certainly reduction in cost is a big factor in healthcare. Everybody's looking to reduce the costs. Where do you think the big wins are going to come? In what sectors of healthcare do you think are the most profitable for reduction of costs?
Well, so I'll just pick on one area in particular that's very sort of an obvious aspect of healthcare technology and the ability to drive efficiency is in the telehealth segment. So we look at that space as providing a lot of opportunity. If you look at what's going on from an industry perspective, you have higher volume of patients going through an existing system with less ability to get access to primary care physicians, or other healthcare providers. So we think telehealth has a lot of opportunity as just an obvious example there. And then other segments as it relates to even the delivery of healthcare, trying to be looking at aspects that can help optimize how revenue is both billed and collected. So that whole revenue cycle management aspect in healthcare for the providers is becoming more important because more of the initial burden of healthcare from a cost standpoint is being pushed to the patients, and therefore, that patient and payment and interaction with the provider becomes more important in the equation.
Well, I've seen some doctors actually start moving toward a recurring revenue model where you just get paid every month directly from the patient, whether you are healthy or not healthy or sick or not sick. And that turns out to be a much more efficient model for the business because you have a stable revenue stream coming in. Do you see that as a future for healthcare, is to move more over from pay per case to monthly subscriptions?
Certainly do. I think that there's an opportunity for that as a slice of the healthcare market. As you look at the overarching needs and the demographics in terms of the elderly population and the healthcare needs, and then the cost associated with it, I think that can play a role. Is that the ultimate answer? I haven't seen models quite yet that sort of answer the full continuum of care as you go from primary care into more acute care needs.
Well, on the provider level, there seems like there's plenty of opportunity to reduce cost. I know from personal experience when I signed up for healthcare this past year, I felt like I was calling into a 1970s call center. I could not get access to the account until I was a member, and I could not be a member until I had an account. And it was quite comical when they were explaining that to me. But in the rush to get everybody onto the system for the beginning of the year, I'm sure it was just a challenge in the system. But what's your take on the providers and their state of technology?
Yeah, it's another good example of really where we see additional opportunity coming from really legacy systems. If you look at even just some of the information that's out there on the massive amounts of data that are generated in healthcare, the question is it managed and structured in a way that can be much more efficient from the whole healthcare process, or ultimately the delivery of care. And there's just a lot of opportunity all along that spectrum.
Are you familiar with blockchain, and do you see blockchain fitting in at this in this area?
Yeah, very familiar with blockchain. Actually, we're keeping an eye on several companies that are focused on addressing that need. Think that certainly can play a significant role just in terms of the security of information in the healthcare system. We think that's an important aspect. It still has some room to sort of develop, but we're definitely keeping an eye on several companies in the space.
It seems like that's a key area for data-centric applications, and of course, healthcare certainly is. And then going forward, keeping track of all the different players and providers in it, can also be a factor as well. It's an emerging technology. It's got a lot of technology growth to go, but it certainly seems like it has a lot of promise. Are there any other technologies at that level?
Well, as I said, we're really watching a few companies in the blockchain space, but if you think about it in terms of where are the security aspects and the needs going to also grow, I think that it will get right down to the patient level. As you think about blockchain and its role, I think it can play a very important role from an overall sort of security and protection of information. But the question is, from a patient standpoint and changes and what happens from a protection of I guess the patient level interaction, that's something that we're intrigued about, trying to get a little bit smarter about and dig into it from a protection of information and privacy standpoint, dealing more with the patients themselves.
So when you talk about security, you're really talking about patient data security as opposed to cybersecurity or that type of thing. Is that right?
Right. It sort of has multi-levels. So I think that's a good way of looking at it. You have sort of security, from a big data and system standpoint. But then you also have, how do you protect the patient and their specific information? I mean, you think about it as a good example. You have not only patient information, but that being linked to genetic information that's also being linked to ancestral information. So you have new dimensions coming in terms of the types of information, the linkages between that information, and then the security and protection of that on more of a holistic basis.
Well, it's certainly a data-centric world. I last read there's 14,000 open source databases in the U.S. you can access, and that's growing, dramatically. And then on top of that, people are starting to build algorithms for machine learning and AI. Where do you think the opportunity for artificial intelligence is in this place? As there could be many things it could do, but what do you think is the low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, well, where we're seeing some, I'll say, AI light applications in healthcare is around population health management and looking at the role that plays in terms of trying to both be predictive in needs from a care standpoint, as well as looking at different sets of populations and subsets of populations. So we're seeing some various applications, and I say they vary widely in terms of their ability to actually then extract and provide ultimately value for both the providers, payers, as well as the patients. So we're seeing some early activity there.
It seemed like there would be large gains from that if you could implement that at the national level. That could be quite a game changer as well.
Yep, and how that all works from a regulatory environment standpoint as well, obviously adds a level of complexity there too.
Great. Well, those are great sets of areas to pursue. It seems like there's a lot of promise and a lot of opportunity there. Are there any other opportunities that you guys are looking at that you would want to share before we close up today?
Well, we also are looking at, certainly, as I mentioned, healthcare technology. We've talked a lot about different aspects of the healthcare, but as well, from a life science perspective, we're looking at various big data and AI applications as it relates to that. So we look at the healthcare industry broadly. So as we look at not only the landscape there, and it does include life sciences, but life sciences from a technology and efficiency standpoint, we think there's a lot of opportunity there too.
But are you talking mostly about drug discovery, or are you talking about other sectors?
Not so much drug discovery, although it could apply there, but it could relate to the again kind of the genetic side, how that's you're driving more effective delivery of drugs, as well as the result or effect on the different populations that you're trying to serve.
I see. That makes sense. Well, good. Well, I want to thank you for taking time to talk today and love to have you come back and maybe we could dive deeper into some of these areas we've touched on in healthcare. It seems like a lot of promise and sounds like you got a great seat there at ORIX to see how this is shaping up for the next generation. Any closing thoughts there?
No, I appreciate the time, Hall, and look forward to talking again.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.